Hey guys, this is Cody and I'm back here for another October Horror Fest video. And in this video I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite, more modern horror films. This movie was released in 2003 and that is Darkness Falls. And yeah, when I first saw this movie I thought it was a pretty creepy movie. Like as usual, I'm just going to give a brief synopsis of the movie and tell you guys what I thought about it. So basically the film is set in this town called Darkness Falls, and about 120 years ago, before the events of the film takes place, there was this woman named Matilda Dixon who lived in the town, and she was very adored by all the children that lived there. And every time a child would lose one of their teeth, they would bring it to her in exchange for a gold coin. And that sort of gave her the name, the Tooth Fairy, like she was a real-life Tooth Fairy, basically. Well, one day, a fire broke out in her home, and it left her very, very scarred. Her entire face was pretty much burned, and it hurt her face so much that, she couldn't go out in the sunlight. She could only go out at night, and only wearing a porcelain mask. Well, one day, two children decide to go visit Matilda, and they don't return that day. And the townspeople basically blame her for the children's disappearance. And of course, back in those days, when you do a crime or what have you, you end up becoming executed, and they end up hanging her. And when they hang her, she lays a curse upon the town, Darkness Falls, and says that every time a child will lose their last tooth, she would come back and take it from them. But if any child witnesses her or looks at her, then she would kill them. And that's sort of the townspeople's punishment for, hanging her. Well, years later, you're introduced as a young boy. I think he's about 12, and his name is Kyle. And he just lost his last baby tooth. This is more modern, I'd say. I'd say since this movie takes place in 2003, I'd say that the events of Kyle as a young boy sort of happened maybe in the 90s, but he just lost his last tooth, and he seems like a pretty quiet boy, and is getting ready to go to bed. And his friend Caitlin comes in, and he has a crush on her, and he asks her to a school dance, and they start talking about his tooth, and if I was the last one, and she says that this is a special tooth, it's your last baby tooth, it means you're not a baby anymore. And she of course puts the tooth under his bed, excuse me. Well, later on that night, Matilda comes to visit him, and unfortunately he looks at her. And she just appears over her bed, and probably one of the best, this movie does have some jump scares, but this is probably the best one, I'd say, is at the very beginning when he first witnesses her. She's just hovering over his bed, and, of course he gets freaked out and runs into the bathroom and turns on the lights, and his mom ends up coming over to, see what's happening, and she thinks he just had a nightmare, and she ends up going into his bedroom in the dark, and the Tooth Fairy ends up killing her. And the next day, Kyle was found, and everybody believes that Kyle was the one that killed his mother. Well, 12 years has passed, and of course Kyle and Caitlin, they're both grown up. Kyle has not slept in who knows how long, probably since that night. He now lives in a room filled with nothing but lights everywhere. And he keeps taking all these pills to stay awake, just to pretty much just stay awake, just so that the Tooth Fairy can't get him. And Caitlin now has a younger brother named Michael, and he had just lost his last baby tooth, and now he is having nightmares, or so that's what they think. He keeps telling them that he has also seen the Tooth Fairy, and that she is coming after Michael. And that is as far as I will get to the plot of the story. I don't want to give anything away. Now, I actually really enjoyed this movie. I think it's got some good jump scares mostly. But I think it's got a lot of really good creepy elements. This movie came out, around the time that The Ring had come out and stuff like that. Even at the bottom it says, "For sheer terror, it runs rings around the ring." Um, I don't know if this movie if this movie's scarier than The Ring, but I would say I'd say it's definitely up there when it comes to great horror movies that have come out over the last, you know 10 years, 14 years. I think that this is definitely one that is one of the best ones, and I don't think that this movie gets as much credit. I hear people talk about The Ring. I hear them talk about The Grudge. I hear them talk about all these great mainstream movies, but I really don't hear a lot of people talk about this. And I mean, it's kind of sad because this is probably one of my favorite ones. I think I enjoy this over The Grudge, I must say. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of cool elements. There's one of the scenes that I really like is when they're trying to get Kyle and Caitlin are trying to get Michael out of the hospital that he's in, because he's been basically in that hospital, this hospital, for a while, and he hasn't been able to sleep for 10 years. He hasn't been able to sleep for like 10 minutes at a time, I think is how long that they said, for however long he's been in the hospital. And while they're trying to get away, like there's, of course, they have to stay where the light is on, or always the tooth fairy will get them. And there's one scene where they have to put their backs up against this wall, and there's darkness in front of them. There's another scene where they're trying to get down these 2 flights of stairs, and the stairs are blacked out, so they pretty much have to jump over the stairs to get back down to where the light is at the bottom. Yeah, I just really enjoyed those scenes. I'm actually in the middle of watching it now, and it's a lot shorter than I thought it was. It's only about 80 something minutes, but back in early 2000s and stuff, most of the movies that came out then were short now than compared to the movies now. But yeah, if you guys have not seen Darkness Falls, I definitely recommend it. It's a great movie to watch in October with all the lights off. I'm pretty sure it's probably going to be creepy the first time you watch it. Of course, the second and third time I watched this, it didn't creep me out as bad, but it's still, I think it still has a creepy factor to it. And I haven't even watched this in years, so I'm really glad to, revisit this October. And, I'd really love to, I'm really glad that watching it again, because I really enjoy it still. So yeah, guys, like I said, if you guys have seen Darkness Falls, definitely let me know what you guys think about them as well. And if you haven't, I definitely recommend checking it out. I don't know if it's on Blu-ray or not, but if it is, I recommend checking it out. And if not, I'm sure it's, you can find it on DVD cheap. But anyway, guys, yeah, thanks for watching. I got a lot more videos coming. I'm going to be talking more about, I'm not going to be talking about a lot of classic movies in this, in my October Horror Fest series. I'm going to focus more on movies that I've enjoyed that I think deserve more recognition, or movies that I can watch every year, or, just movies that I think deserve to be seen a lot more. So, yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow night.